What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. We continue with our 2025 college football predictions for the upcoming 2025 college football season. Up next is the Michigan Wolverines. Michigan coming off definitely a little bit of a step back from where they were a couple years ago when they, of course, won the national championship. This is a team that went 7-5 in the regular season, but they went 8-5 overall, and of course they did finish the season strong with that big win over Ohio State in 2024. So not a bad year for Michigan, but you look at this team now for 2025 before we get into the predictions for this team. You look at the offensive side of the football, I think it's really going to come down to Bryce Underwood, of how good of a quarterback he's going to be basically as a true freshman. Yeah, I think it's all going to be about him. I think he's going to be solid. I don't want to call him a Heisman candidate right away. I know he's one of the top quarterbacks coming out of high school and everything, but I don't want to go too far with this kid just yet. I think first half of the year it probably will be a big struggle, but then second half, that's where he probably starts to develop as a quarterback right away. I think this offense in the passing game will be there for them. The running game, though, should be really strong for this Michigan team. You look at the wide receivers, I think they're going to be pretty solid there. Defensively, they lose some key pieces on that side of the football, but they do reload, so I think the defense will just be fine. So I think this Michigan team is going to be pretty decent. Let's now get to the schedule for 2025. This is that schedule for Michigan. Again, this team was 8-5 last year in 2024. So let's go game by game, and I'll give you my official prediction for this Michigan team for 2025. Michigan's going to start off with New Mexico on August the 30th. That should be a pretty easy win for Michigan. You know, this is kind of the first, game that we're going to know about Bryce Underwood a little bit, but definitely not know much about him because this is against a group of 5 team. I don't know if New Mexico is the same as they used to be. I think Michigan does take care of business. I don't know if they score 40 points in this game, but I think they at least score 30. So I got Michigan starting off with a win, and I got them starting off 1-0. And then they play a big non-conference game on the road at Oklahoma on September the 6th. This is a big non-conference game for both of these teams. You look at this Oklahoma team, I mean, offensively, they do got some question marks. They weren't really that great there last year, but with the addition that they have coming in the transfer portal at quarterback, that offense could probably change definitely in the passing game. I know they're probably going to have a good run game, but you look at their defense, that might be the strength of their team, is that defensive side of the football. Brent Venables calling the defensive plays. Yeah, I think these two teams are dead even in my opinion. I think both defensively, they're pretty even. I just wonder who the offensive advantage is going to go to. I mean, I do trust, Oklahoma's offense a little bit more than Michigan's. I think both of these offenses are actually pretty even, but I haven't really seen Bryce Underwood play, so I don't know how good the kid is going to be. And so with that being said, I think Oklahoma definitely has an advantage at the quarterback position just because they have an incoming transfer. He definitely has a lot more experience. Plus, this one is on the road. It's a very tough place to play, and especially for a true freshman quarterback, that's definitely going to be a tough test here for this young piece here for Michigan. So with that being said, I think this is a low-scoring defensive game, but I'm actually going to go with Oklahoma here to get the win. I thought about picking Michigan, but I'm going to go with Oklahoma just because they're playing at home and also just the advantage at quarterback. So going to go with the Sooners here in a low-scoring defensive game. So that puts Michigan now at 1-1. But then they beat Central Michigan on September 13th. And you look at these next two games, Central Michigan and Nebraska on the road on September 20th. The head coach for Michigan, Shannon Moore, is going to be suspended for the next two games just because, some NCAA violations. But they will play Nebraska on the road to open up conference play on September 20th. Very tough way to start out Big Ten play. I think Nebraska is going to be a solid/decent team. Dylan Raiola is back at quarterback for this Nebraska team. We saw how good of a talent he was last year a little bit, and then at times he was inconsistent, but he should be improved a lot in year 2 under Nebraska. And Matt Rule's a pretty good coach. He's got this Nebraska team heading in the right direction. And also, without the addition of Shannon Moore at the the head coaching position for this Michigan team, that's definitely a concern. I know Michigan has won, games without Jim Harbaugh in the past, but that's in the past. This is this year, so I think Nebraska actually pulls off the upset. I'm going to go with Nebraska to beat Michigan here at home on September 20th, so a pretty slow start to the season for Michigan. I have them dropping to 2-2, but then they get their first bye week. I think that's a pretty good spot for a bye week. I think it really does kind of give you some time to recover after those first 4 games, especially against Nebraska and Oklahoma, both on the road. But then they play Wisconsin out of the bye week on October the 4th. Wisconsin is a team that I'm not really that high on this year. Yes, they do got a lot of playmakers on the roster, but I just don't think they're going to be quite as good as they were back in the past. And Luke Fickell, he hasn't just been able to get this program turned around. So with that being said, I think Michigan definitely is the better team. I think they beat Wisconsin. They bounced back after a tough loss in Nebraska a couple weeks ago. So I got Michigan improving to 3-2 on the season. But then after that, it's a tough road test at USC on October the 11th. So they have to travel out west and everything. So maybe that first bye week doesn't really come at a good time. But I just think it's a pretty good spot for a bye week. It just gives you that time to recover after the first, 4 games of the year, and especially 2 road games. But you look at USC here, they're going to have a type of offense that's going to be pretty tough to stop. Defensively, can they improve in year 2 with their defensive coordinator? Maybe they can. USC should be a pretty solid team in 2025. I know last year's game, Michigan beat USC. It's a game that USC definitely should have won. USC lost a lot of close games last year. If they can win those close games, then USC could be a pretty dangerous team. This one's on the road. It's a very tough place to play, and I had a really tough time with this one. I mean, USC's got some talent as well. It's not like they're a lesser talented team than Michigan is. So with that being said, I think USC gets the win here, so I'm going to go with the Trojans of USC to get the win. I thought about picking Michigan in this game, but traveling out west, that tends to, give teams some trouble. So I'm going to go with Michigan to lose this game, and I got them dropping to 3-3. Next, they play Washington at home on October the 18th. Washington, I also think, is going to be a pretty solid team. They should be improved a lot this year under Jedd Fisch as their second-year head coach. But I think Michigan playing at home, they lost to this Washington team last year, and this will be a big revenge game here for the Wolverines. So I think Michigan comes in fired up, and they also come in a little bit angry, especially after losing last week to USC. So I think Michigan beats Washington. I don't think it's a blowout, though. I think it is a competitive game that comes down to the wire, but I'm going to go with Michigan here to get the win. So I got Michigan improving to 4-3. Next, they play on the road at Michigan State on October the 25th. Michigan State is another team that could be a little bit improved this year with their second-year head coach. It really does come down to their quarterback, in my opinion, and Aiden Chills and everything. Michigan State definitely has a pretty big shot here to pull off the upset, but I just look at this Michigan team, the physicality of this team on both sides of the football. It's definitely a little bit better than Michigan State, and I just think Michigan State still has a long way to go before they get back to where they used to be in the Big Ten. So I think Michigan, I think this is a trap game. I think it's probably close until the fourth quarter, but maybe Michigan pulls away, and I think Michigan does get the win here on the road at Michigan State. So I'm going to go with the Wolverines in that one, and I got them improving to 5-3. And then they play at home against Purdue on November 1st. This is a Purdue team that has Barry Odom taking over as the head coach. I still think they got a long ways to go. Purdue's going to have a lot of new faces on their roster, and it's just not going to be as good as Michigan's roster. So I think Michigan beats Purdue at home fairly easily. That might be the easiest win on the schedule in the Big Ten overall for Michigan, and I got this team improving to 6-3. They get their second bye week before playing on the road at Northwestern on November 15th. Northwestern was a team that's coming off definitely a disappointing year last year. They could be a lot better in 2025. They got Peyton Thorne coming in, the transfer quarterback, but I just don't know if he has what it takes to really go up against this Michigan team. I think Michigan goes on the road and beats Northwestern. Maybe it's a slow start for the Wolverines, but then they start to pick it up. And I think this is where Bryce Underwood shows how good he's going to be as a future quarterback for this Michigan team as well. So that puts Michigan now at 7-3. And then they play another road game against Maryland on November 22nd. So they got back-to-back road games here, which could be a little bit tough here for Michigan, but I don't think Maryland is going to be all that great this year. You look at this roster, just so many question marks. They lost too many players from last year, so I think Michigan definitely is the better team. They beat Maryland here on the road, and I got this Michigan team now improving to 8-3. And then they close things out, of course, with a big game against Ohio State at home on November 29th. I did pick the Wolverines to win this game, not just because of the home field advantage, but I just feel like the physicality of this Michigan team, I think it's going to get better as the season goes along, and I think Bryce Underwood has what it takes to really get better down the stretch. You look at this Ohio State team, I think they're definitely more talented than Michigan is. I mean, last year they definitely were more talented, but Michigan was just a better team, and they were the physical team on both sides of the football, especially the running game. And Ohio State definitely has some question marks on the defensive line, so that definitely could be a concern going into this game for Ohio State. I think Michigan, if they run the football in this game, then they will definitely win this game by just running the football. And if their defense can make some big plays on the defensive side of the football, then yeah, Michigan is going to win this game. But wouldn't be surprised if the Buckeyes did win this one, but I'm going to make Michigan to do it like 5 years in a row. So I'm going to go with the Wolverines here to get the win to close out the season. So I got Michigan finishing 9-3 in 2025. I could definitely see this team going 8-4 if they lose to Ohio State. But what if they slip up somewhere else? What if they lose to Michigan State and then also one of those 2 games in back-to-back weeks? I don't really know if they can lose those 2 games because they definitely should overall be the better team compared to those 2 teams. And then you look at these 3 losses, Oklahoma, Nebraska, and USC. Maybe they win one at least of those games, and that probably will be enough to get them to 10-2 and then also a spot in the college football playoff. But either way, I got this team going 9-3. So that's my prediction for Michigan for 2025. Do you guys agree or disagree with this prediction? And also give me your prediction for Michigan down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports YouTube channel.